You just press play on the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the Huntroversy. We're here to entertain, educate, and engage. And in case you didn't know, you only live once. But if you do it right, once is enough. Don't waste it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 150 of the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the Huntroversy. And that is exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to break down the do's and don'ts of deer stand etiquette. Garrett had an idea the other day. He said, let's bullet list, write a bunch of things down that are, common misconceptions or talked about in the deer camps all over the world about potentially things that are true or maybe are
more like
false.
Myths.
Yeah, myths
is the best way that I would say it. Like
deer hunting myths.
Myth busting. And there are people that are heavily opinionated on one side, heavily opinionated on the other. Mm-hmm. I think we even have had biases in the past that have changed through experience.
Yeah,
that we'll
that
talk
is
about.
True.
I don't know. So I guess what I'm saying is that after you listen to this podcast, don't hate us. You can love us. But if you think we're wrong, you're like, dude, I do this, and I know why you guys think this sucks, but it worked for me. Shoot us a note. We love hearing that. We'll give you a shout-out on the next podcast when we record it and say, hey, we're going to rewind and talk about subject X or whatever. But anywho, we got to pay the bills.
That's right. Our podcast is presented by Badlands Gear. You can check them out at badlandsgear.com and get 30% off your order site-wide using the code LASTBREATH22BL30. All of those characters are uppercase. There is no spaces in between any of them. Moultrie Mobile. Check out the new Delta camera for this year. They have reconfigured the software back to the old generation 6,000 eyes, 7,000 eyes.
Old manufacturer
that's much more trusted. So we covered a podcast, about 10 episodes with Mark Olis, and you can hear and listen to all the changes that were made. But they just basically wanted to beef up the camera, make it a lot more reliable, and we haven't had any issues thus far for the last, what have we been running?
With the Delta base.
With the Delta base.
And I thought, I don't know, man. Every company, when you get so big, there's going to be some snafus along the way. I guess it was a pretty good dose of humility when Mark came on and kind of owned it. They said the Delta really didn't go over as well. They took some risks with manufacturing, and obviously they corrected them. I think they did everything they could to take care of the customers that
I don't think
bought the
COVID
Delta.
helped anybody either. They kind of put the chokehold on lots of companies to force their hand into working with new manufacturers. I mean,
yep. Yeah.
So
I don't know. Greener pastures. And if you are a Moultrie fan, especially a Moultrie Mobile fan, you want to stick around the next several podcasts because there's some exciting news coming. We can't say anything else. We have a confidentiality contract, but it's pretty cool. Moving on, Outdoor Edge, another great partner of ours.
Outdoor Edge, using the code LBTV25, you can get 25% off your order site-wide. Anything cutlery related that is to your heart's desire, you can purchase. Maybe get yourself a nice little replaceable blade knife. They've got ones as cheap as $20. That's the EDC Onyx. It's it's like a hard plastic molded knife, and it weighs literally next to nothing. I have one in my camping pack. There's one in our hunting pack, and it's like the cheaper version of the razor.
Yeah,
and
they're just can't beat
good,
it.
You know?
The other thing that I think is really cool to note about those replacement blade knives is that yes, you can pop a blade, toss one, put a new one in, but you can also sharpen those blades. I've done it on a couple of ours. Is it something maybe you want to invest a lot of time in? I don't know. That's up to you. But you don't necessarily have to pitch it once the blade gets dulled a bit. You can run it through. They've got a quick sharpener. You can put it into a different sharpener. I mean, it's still stainless steel. It's still going to sharpen. Yep. But there is that huge convenience factor that if you're out and about and you don't have the sharpener with you, touch of a button and you're back to scalpel sharp.
And we gave away about 40 Outdoor Edge knives at our launch party last year. So if you're interested in that, August 19th, that's our date. Adler Theater, Davenport, Iowa, August 19th. Free beer, free gear, free films. And we have a new ad coming on today, a new partner, the Exodus MMT.
Mm-hmm.
You can check it out at ExodusOutdoorGear.com. Basically, what they have done is they have engineered what they believe to be the best hunting arrow in the world. A tailored arrow specifically tuned to the setup of your archery equipment. And a thing that makes it different, I was just reading a couple of the notes today, is that it's a standard carbon arrow, but it's got a weave outer shell. They call it a 4K proprietary blend weave outer shell, so think about it as a standard carbon diameter shaft or a microcarbon diameter shaft completely wrapped
with a jacket.
A jacket in a weave, kind of like a full metal jacket. So apparently, and you guys can go to ExodusOutdoorGear.com. If you click on the shop button in the upper left-hand tab, you can deploy a drop-down menu. You can go and see these arrows. Chad does a very good job of explaining it.
God, he's so hot. I hope he listens to this.
You can go out and check out all the information, much more detailed than what we can give you right here off the top of my head. But it's just, they've basically built a back-end site on their website to make it really user-friendly as well and get you the arrow that you actually really need to start flinging more accurate arrows out of your bow this season. So go check them out at ExodusOutdoorGear.com. And again, the name of the arrow is the Exodus MMT. So
I've got another one here.
Yeah.
Sponsors that aren't on the list, but I think we need to shout out. And these are people that really kind of keep the wind in my sails, not necessarily sponsors, quote unquote, that fit the definition in the book, but the Whitetail Legacy Podcast. Love those guys. You've gotten to know Cody and Homie through our show, and they do a really good job over there. They are awesome men, great fathers, and good friends. And I also want to shout out Mike Lemansky. Dude has sacrificed more than most of us in this country. He's finally back for a little while, and he's got a little bit of time before he moves back to the home. But Harvest Time Outdoors, if you don't go and check out either of their Instagram pages or Facebook pages or YouTube pages, go ahead and do it. I mean, you're going to be watching quality stuff from just genuine guys. And, again, maybe they don't fit the...
Mike knows a lot about setting bows and stuff.
Dude, I bet Mike
knows a
set
ton
up
about archery.
50 bows, I bet.
Oh, I bet.
But anyway, just wanted to give those guys a shout-out. And I don't know. Episode 150 should be good. I'm sitting here sipping a protein shake.
And Tompkins Taxidermy. If you guys did not take advantage of one of our 15 launch party codes, if you haven't been to the launch party in past, basically we give out some codes to our taxidermists once our list fills up. Then no more codes can be taken, but it's free. It's quicker turnaround. They can pick them up at our launch party in the summer, which is 6-month turnaround. That's pretty damn good. And they get a discounted rate on their taxidermy work, and they're shown in front of, somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000 people get to walk by, see your deer, and it's really sweet to see like 30, 40, 50 deer hanging up in our atrium as people are going by. It's like our own deer show.
It is a deer show, and
we've been doing. So.
Peer-reviewed, peer-killed. Like, don't get me wrong, the deer classics are fantastic, but they, you could have deer from, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours away, and what's neat about the launch party is that it's deer within our bubble. So, heck, you might even see a deer that that you didn't kill.
Right.
But there's that potential, and so it's really cool. Speaking of Tompkins and the deer show, if you haven't already, I think he's gotten a hold of 13 of the 15 code users. Just make sure you get a hold of him because he wants to go over all the details about payment and pickup and everything. He likes to get that ironed out before the show well in advance, which I don't blame him. That way the night of the launch party is all about having a good time, shaking hands. You don't got to worry about passing checks or cash or any of that stuff. But let's get into it.
Okay, the do's and don'ts of deer stand etiquette, more appropriately titled Deer Stand Myths. So myth number 1, eating food in your deer stand.
I know I've got my 2 cents to weigh in on this, and this is going to go kind of hand in hand with some of the other myths that we have. I think it kind of falls under like that scent control aspect. Me and you only pack snacks to the deer stand, and really water to the deer stand when we're doing the all-dayers. When it's November and we're grinding and we know. And that time of the year, anyway, we're getting really hyper-aggressive with where we're sitting, how much we're sitting. When it gets in to be around the 2nd through the 12th, 2nd through maybe even the 14th, that time of year, you got to be in the tree. And I think my 2 cents with snacks is that we've always been hyperactive about scent control. When we take our snacks to the stand, they're always either in Ziploc or a sealed container. When we eat them, we put the wrappers back into a Ziploc or a sealed container. Obviously, when you're chewing on your Pop-Tart or Uncrustable or whatever, you've got that aroma that's dispersing. But I think that just kind of falls in hand too. I mean, when we pick our stands, 95% of the time during the rutcation, we're hunting them with a good wind.
Yep.
Unless we're getting like, fuck it, Hail Mary this shit.
Yep. Trying to kill one before gun season rolls through.
So I've always been a believer that a deer downwind is going to wind you if they want to. Doesn't matter if you smell like perfume, a gym bag, or pine cones. I mean, a deer's nose is more sensitive than a dog's. I don't think you can fool it. But also, that being said, we have seen the Instagram posts of like guys having like literally like thermoses of biscuits and gravy and like others, and we're like,
that wigs me out.
That shit is like no whole nother level of tree stand snack. Like,
Michael Hunzucker's a savage. I watched his story, and he's like, greasy ass pizza before the thermal shift. And I was just like thinking to myself, like, man, he just does not give a shit. Like, they're either going to come from exactly where he wants, or they're going to be gone. Like, imagine what a Casey's pizza smells like to a deer.
Oh, I know.
Oh my goodness.
And I mean, like, you just, especially when you amp like warmth like amplifies. I think that scent, that aroma. And so I don't know. We've never done that. We're granola bars, trail mix, PB&J sandwiches, ham sandwiches, water, stuff that I feel like is pretty mild in the spectrum of scent.
And stuff that we can eat cleanly. Like, I would not.
I
would
Doesn't
have a heart
residue.
attack if I, the age-old, like, kindergartner eating a piece of pizza for the first time where you grab onto the crust and all that stuff just slides right off the sauce and onto you. Yeah. Can you imagine catching a triangle-shaped gravy sauced breakfast pizza on your camo? I'll be like, yep, it's over. We're going home. We got to wash this now.
And, dude, I get it. There's Western hunters that are listening and are out there. They're like, dude, it don't matter. Like, I get it. When you can move to adapt the wind in your favor, 100%.
Yeah.
You can roll around in pizza dough for all I care. But when you're fixed to a tree and you're really kind of like, well, I hope they come from this way, and you hope they do, and sometimes they do, but sometimes, guess what? They don't. That's why you have shooting lanes behind you. So I don't know. I guess the myth here is it's totally, I think it's subjective. You can roll the dice if you want to go crazy with your snacks, but I feel like as a par, Matt and Jesse and Cody and Homie, those guys kind of follow the same suit as we do where, they pack snacks. You're not going to starve while you're hunting. But it always, like Matt and Jesse's MO is they have a Tupperware container that they keep all their snacks in, which actually is pretty smart because then it doesn't get crushed. Like me and you have eaten the smushed PB&J sandwiches or whatever.
Yep.
We're cramming our camera gear in there and our arms and calls and everything. But I don't know. We have yet to be like, let's put some chili in our, food canister and, put a couple hot hands around it. So that way at 2:00 we can have warm chili. Like, we don't do that shit.
No, that's, I don't feel like you said, I don't feel like if you're going to get winded, I don't think it's really because of food.
No, I'm such a big believer. Man, we've had deer that are like right downwind of us and we're just like, we're fucked. And they just don't care. And I feel like that deer is just not focused. Yep. It's like when a deer is tuned in and they're trying to peg you or they're like on edge or suspicious. When they're on
pins and needles, all it takes is just a little
whiff,
Yeah.
But then again, like we just literally were talking about TJ this morning. That deer was 180 yards away from us. The wind shifted and we practiced scent control. We're not crazy freaks about we wash our clothes. Like, we'll spray our boots and stuff on the way in.
I would say we're more towards the nutso end than the relax end with all of our scent control showers. Like, we don't smell anything for 4 months a year.
100%. And that deer, like I said, 180 yards away, but he was in tune. He came out to the field. He checked it.
He's wary.
He's just smart buck. And that dude got a whiff, gone.
Didn't like it.
180 yards away. But then, like I said, we've had deer that are just like, how are we getting away? How did we get away with it? And it happens. So it's like driving. You know, like when you're focused and you're driving, you can prevent yourself from having a whoopsie or whatever. But like when you're just in la la land daydreaming, like that's when you bump something. You're like, shit, oops. Like just, you know, I wasn't paying attention backing up and I bumped into that parking bumper. Oops. You know.
That's a good way to explain it.
Anywho.
Peeing out of your deer stand.
Ooh, this is one that I feel like we have changed on. You know, before we used to pack, literally we had a labeled Gatorade bottle for each of us that we would piss in the deer stand. Again, these are mostly all day sits. And for the record, I have a bladder about the size of a clementine. So if I have a thimble of water, I've got to piss. Grant gives me shit all the time. It's kind of adapted. And dude, I'm still very conflicted on this thing because you have the guys that be like, oh, they can't tell the difference. You piss in your scrapes, da-da-da-da. And it's like, what? Yeah, but it's like, but if a buck is using his scrape to signify his territory, how does he know if like, you know, he can obviously tell if another deer has been in it. Like he can distinguish that. So then if he can distinguish other deer in the same species, how can he not differentiate like different species of deer or different species of not deer, just period.
Organisms, yeah.
Like you're telling me that he can tell that there was a different buck piss in this scrape than his, but he can't tell that my piss is not deer piss.
Yeah.
Kind of, I don't know. That's where my mind is like, whoa, I'm really conflicted here. A lot of animals use urine to mark their territories. Wolves, dogs, all kinds of things, right? And like you've seen like when a dog pisses on your fence post and then your dog goes out and he's like, what the fuck? You know, he can tell that it's a different urine. But he can't tell, like, would he have the same reaction if you went and peed on it? I don't know. But anyway, getting back to it, I feel like we've laxed this approach. I would say if we have the opportunity, more times than not, we'll get down and, like, walk away from the stand a little bit and piss. You know, Matt and Jesse are really good about that. A lot of their creek stands.
We pee in the creeks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, to try to mitigate it.
Yep.
But we don't pack a Gatorade bottle anymore. You know. We don't sit there and hold it and squirm and are miserable until we get down. But I don't know. What's your 2 cents on this?
My 2 cents on the last two, eating food, peeing, I think they kind of fall into the scent or dispersing scent from your location type category. I would put them both in. And I think one of the most deadly kind of scents is ground scent. And I'm under the belief that unless it was put there by me, I don't really want a deer to know that we were there. Like going and freshening a scrape, that's not supposed to mimic human scent. I would rather they just didn't know we were there. So getting back to like specifically peeing out of a deer stand, I think I would rather just put it in a creek or potentially pee in a stand, just because I feel like if you're laying down a big old pile of pee in any one of the stands that we hunt in, yeah, we're banking 80 or 90% on a deer coming through our shooting lanes where we want them to come through anyways. But, you know, there's the off chance that they cut into that and they're like, whoa, that's a little different. And it, you know, kind of alarms them or shocks them a little bit. So I would say peeing out of your deer stand, if you can pee into a creek, like lots of our stands are by creeks. If you can make it to a creek, go there. But I just feel like with any scent control related stuff, my approach is not that it works 100%. I'm not like, I went and took a scent away shower. Now no deer will smell me.
Right.
No, it's that, okay, there's a deer that's about to cut my wind 300 yards away into the timber that I can't even see. He's going to smell me less if I'm, you know, if I smell appropriate and I don't smell like anything versus me smelling like McDonald's. Now he's going to bust before I can even see him. Like that type of stuff is what I do scent control for. It's the stuff that I don't see going on. It's the stuff that, you know, could take, my scent down from a 10 out of 10 spooking a deer to a 7, but it gets them just that much closer. Like, can we see the deer now? Like, what valuable data can we collect when we see the deer? Is this deer upset? Is he mad? Is he coming in to check a scrape? Is he wary? Is he timid? Just to break that bubble. So I feel like peeing out of your deer stand, like I don't do it all the time. If I really, really have to go and I cannot make it down the tree or feel like I can't make it down the tree, I'll go. But I don't make a habit of like, yep, I'm just going to pee again.
And I think
every time I feel like it.
This falls into that spectrum too, again within those very narrow windows when we take our rutcation. You know, I would say almost never.
Yeah, it's during an all day.
Yeah, have we ever been like, man, I got to pee when we're just doing a morning or an evening
Yeah,
sit?
for like 2.5 or 3 hours on it.
You know, late season we never do it. You know, we take a piss at the truck before you walk in. Same thing in the morning. Like it's those days where you're sitting dark to dark.
4 to 7 days. Yeah,
you're gonna have to pee. I also think too. I want to add, like, if you make a habit out of peeing out of your deer stands, you're eventually going to just scent up that area. You know, I think you pee once out of your stand or twice out of your stand, a couple timely rains, and it pretty much washes away whatever residual effects you have. You know, some sunlight hits it, the UV breaks it down, you know, it's done. But like similar to a deer scrape, if you are constantly pissing out of the same stand again and again and again, just like hunting out of the same stand again and again and again, you're gonna have that residual effect. And there's where I could see you have a compounding issue where, you know, you pee out your stand once, you know, not as bad as peeing out your stand 10 times.
every time.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I don't know.
I feel like it's spreading the love too. Like if you have a deer stand set up on a property, and that's the one place that you hunt, I would say you should be a little more careful about doing it.
About just hunting it in general, right?
Versus, you know, you got 10 or 12 stand locations spread over a couple properties, 2, 3. Then you can be a little more lax.
A lot of people, and I think I fall into this category, believe that the first time you hunt a stand for the year is your most deadly.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe.
Makes sense.
I think that rings true.
Purposely scaring deer away from your deer stand.
Yeah, this is something that I think we did when we were younger. We'd drop our hats or we'd make stupid noises. Like out of your deer stand, I don't think there's any reason to do it. And out of a ground blind, you know, even more of a reason not to. But it's hard. I get it, right? You've been hunting and now it's dark and maybe you're cold or maybe you're hungry or maybe you have to piss like we were just talking about. But, you know, sitting in that for an extra 10 or 15 minutes for it to get dark, I think is this, to me, the blatant option. And it's hard because you're sitting there doing nothing. You can't shoot anything, you know, like... But I don't know if I don't see the benefit of scaring a deer out of your stand, scaring a deer out of the field or away from your stand to get out of the blind or the stand. I mean, the only thing that you're doing is expediting your leave. Why not wait until at least you eliminate 2 out of the 3 factors? You know, sight and smell. They can hear you probably crunching in the leaves or creaking down the stairs or whatever you're doing. But at least they can't get like multiple cognitive recognitions like, oh, that's a human
Again.
Yeah,
Same spot.
I just feel like, to me, wait it out. But again, I you know, you've heard guys, I couldn't get this deer to leave. I threw my water bottle down at him. Sometimes it works. Maybe they're just like, it's a branch or whatever. But in my mind, you'd have to hit them on the head. If they're completely oblivious to it being a non-natural, like to a, you know, a non-natural phenomenon, like a deer that hears a branch fall out of the tree is not going to run away. Maybe jump a little bit, like, just another hedge ball, you know, or something.
Yeah.
Unless you like literally hit them on the head with your water bottle, they're probably not going to run very far away. What do you think? I think this is most difficult during late season when you're trying to get on a deer and he didn't come out or he didn't come within range. Now you've got your late season field that's got 20, 30 deer in it, and you're like, now what? I don't know. I've heard guys coyote call. I've heard guys, you know, have their buddy pick them up with their truck and scare, you know, clear the field with their trucks. But those are all better options, I think, than just spooking them. But I don't know. I don't know what the good answer is. The good answer is that you probably just need to kill the son of a bitch when you're in the stand, and then you don't got to worry about getting out.
Yeah.
But that's obviously the perfect world.
Yeah. Raking a leaf path all the way to your stand. This is a good one.
What do you think?
I think that it's the best way for you to be silent and beat leaf crunch noise in November.
Mm-hmm.
However, I feel like once you create a path from, somewhere where it's easy walking and quiet, for us it would be a field edge, and we're going into the timber would be a scenario where we might think about doing this. We cut our path from the field edge. Well, I mean, shoot, we've seen deer come right down those when we used to do this, like to the nth degree, when we used to rake our paths to our stands and basically make them virtually leafless, so we're just dead quiet walking in. We've seen deer do that. We've seen deer use them,
right,
and they're dead silent. And if we're not looking right down that path, like if that path's in our peripheral,
which your entry and exit,
then most of the time it will be. You're not going to be looking down the path you came in on.
Yeah, it's not where you want to shoot.
It's not where you want to shoot. So I feel like that's a good way for a deer to come right down a path,
sniffing your boot tracks
the whole way,
and you got no idea.
I
feel like we have evolved this process. Because as you said, at first we were like, we want to walk in, snag free, quiet, and we would like clip every branch, and we almost would make like a little mini deer trail. Mm-hmm. And sometimes these were like 80, 90, 100 yards long, good ways off. And it took a little bit of work. I think we were making quite a bit of a disturbance when we were doing it because it was intra-season. You can't rake the deer paths in the summer, know. We had the ability to get in there quietly, but we telegraphed our stand. Mm-hmm. And I think what we have done is we've evolved a bit to where I think the last approach we have been clearing our leaves, but off of the main trail or off of the field edge or wherever we are, we're really doing a better job about not like inviting deer down it. And what do we mean by this? It's like, as Grant said, you got to enter the timbers through some field edge usually, or road or access or something. Yep. Instead of us cutting it right there, we'll know that, like, okay, we're going to have to kind of move a couple of these branches or these, small bushes or vine or whatever. And you got to be delicate when you're doing it to not leave much scent and not make much noise. But about, once we get in there a little ways, enough that a deer is not going to pick it up right away, that's when we'll kind of start pruning, I guess is the best way, in manicuring the access to the stand. Mm-hmm. And we've kept it very narrow, and we've also always, almost never have we used a light to get into the stand. And I think that's just kind of knowing your access, your entry points, knowing your ground. And I do think it helps, especially in those morning sits, to be able to just really tiptoe in. My pet peeve with this is, like, you do all this work to make it quiet. If your stand isn't quiet, what the hell are you doing it for anyway? Mm-hmm. You go, great, you got to the tree quiet, and then,
pop, 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 pop.
Yeah, you have the straps that aren't tied, or you got those steps that pop or creak, tighten your bolts, use lock nuts, use silicone washers, and like a lot of your stands will come with like those Hercules straps, where it's just like as tight as you can pull them type deal. Mm-hmm. We have multiple times, botched those and put ratchet straps on, and it makes a difference, I think, because, walking through the leaves is obviously
arguably natural.
Yes. If it's rhythmic, I think you're going to have an issue. If it's like a kush, 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 break it up a little bit, but like there's nothing in the woods that sounds like metal, naturally. So that would be my 2 cents. I think you can do it. I think I know guys that do it. Literally will take a hand rake out and just make a nice big old path. Mm-hmm. And they kill deer. I'm not saying they don't, but I feel like, I don't know, at what point in time do you put too much effort into it that it hurts you?
Yeah. This is one of the most vexing ones I think that we've talked about so far, just because I feel like, I don't know if the payoff, like in the days that we were doing that, I don't necessarily recall our success chances, our percentage, like our batting average on big bucks being any better or higher. And I can only really recall a couple of what I would call big deer doing this to us, and they would more so fall into the category of like an inquisitive 3-year-old with a larger rack. Like you and Logan had one about 6 years ago, walk right to you, right down the raked path.
And that was another scenario where it was like, I looked down, I'm like, oh shit, didn't hear him coming. I mean, it's November, should have heard him.
I've said this to you before. I think my biggest fear in hunting, in the scenario that I dislike the most in hunting any kind of game, period, my biggest pet peeve, and I think the biggest key to hunting is kind of within this pet peeve is if you have the drop on the animal and you have control of the scenario, you are in such a much better spot than if that sucker sees you first. And I feel like if you're raking a path all the way to your deer stand, you're setting up a potential avenue for you to be like, you know, taking your midday 11 o'clock break, you're calling your wife like, hey honey, what's going on? And there he is looking right at you. Right. You had no idea. And now it's out of your control. And now you got to hang up silently, get your bow while this huge deer is looking, you know, right into the gates of your soul from 12 yards that he's been watching you for who knows how long. That's why I feel like the more things that you can do to put the scenario and tip the scales to the point where you're going to see him before he sees you or any animal. Like I feel the same way with coyote hunting, with turkey hunting. I feel like if you can watch them enter a field or if you can watch them break some kind of barrier, you're in the driver's seat for being in control of the situation, not the other way around. And I feel like that's the key to hunting, is being able to be in that driver's seat, read the body language of the animal, and then go and make your play from there.
Right. And if you mess up on that, then, you know, learn from it, right? But like you said, that feeling of being behind the 8 ball. Like you're being reactive instead of proactive.
Yep.
That's what sucks.
Yes. Okay. Leaving your deer stand in the same tree for 5, 10, 15,
man,
who knows how many years.
You know, we live in the camp. We started taking all of our stands down, even our great spots, like the tried and true. We started taking them down, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And that was kind of dual purpose, safety oriented, and then stand longevity. Like I feel like you're going to maximize like I said, longevity of your stands by taking them down, not letting them get weathered those extra 6 months a year. And I think it's a lot safer because your straps aren't going to get weathered, especially the UV exposure. You're not going to have that tree expansion that you know, you've all had a ratchet strap that's like grown into the tree or that's like literally so tight you can't pop it and you got to cut it. Like, I don't know if that's not really the safest thing, you know? But I guess getting back to the question, whether you take your stands down or not, I think there are some spots on places that are just hot. Like, that you just know, I need to have a stand here. And we have them. I think that's a good thing. I just think the issue that we talked about a little bit earlier is those really good spots, they're easy to burn up, I think, because they're so good and you have that permanent stand there and you're like, I just pop the ratchet straps every year, go and retighten them and touch up the lanes, you know, like you're so comfortable with them that you want to hunt them so much. And I think you can almost, you know, I think you can overhunt a stand. And when you do that, it takes away from its ability. But I guess to answer the question, yes, I think there are spots and places and trees and farms that you can be in every year after year after year after year. What do you think?
I think for maintenance, I mean, it's pretty easy math. If you only have your deer stand out for half the year, it's going to last twice as long. Yeah. You know, reason would stand with that argument, I feel. So if you've got, you know, if you don't care and you just got a little, you know, like we were in the camp, remember that day that I think you bought 30 hang-on stands for, you were a, what the hell? Sportsman's Guide member for like $27 a piece. This would have been like in 2008.
While ago.
And
they all came unassembled.
Yep.
Like, it took like all day to put
We don't
them
have
together.
any more of them, thank God, because that sucked. Those seats were about as big as my laptop keyboard, maybe a little bigger. And the platform, you know, That's one of my bugaboos with like these very ultralight packable hang-on stands now, like the Hunting Beast and the Lone Wolf stands. Like, it's a great idea. And if I was a guy going on public land and humping her deep, I would much rather carry one of those in. But the caveat is that you and me are not little. It's not fun to like sit with your feet underneath you all day. It kind of defeats the purpose of having a strap. You might as well just sit on a little platform because none of the weight of your legs and lower body is being handled by your feet and the base that you're creating on your stand. So I just, if you're listening to me, anybody that works at one of those two companies, make a bigger stand. I would gladly enjoy sitting in one. But make one for a 6'5" guy.
Yeah. Well, they're just going to tell you to stand.
Guy. Yeah, they're just going to tell me to stand. So I do feel like it's going to last twice as long. In terms of disrupting the farm, I mean, there's guys that we know that are in their 40s and 50s that own a bunch of farms, like many farms, that they do just leave them in there all year round, 365. Maybe they would argue, this is a counter argument, I'm just thinking of it now, maybe they would argue that by doing that, they're not disrupting as much come the fall.
Right.
And they're like, okay, I'm just going to leave this thing, like, let's say we have a slower growing tree, like a hackberry or something like that. We're like, all right, this thing's not growing incredibly fast. I'm going to put this up. I'm going to leave it for 5 years, and then I'm going to create my major disturbance when it's sun rotted out and the straps need replaced and blah, 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 blah. And a squirrel's eating the seat and this and that and the other.
Yeah.
And now I'm taking it down versus you and me, which they could argue that we make more of a commotion by taking them up and down once a year than they would every 4 or 5 once the stand is, starting to deteriorate and get into bad condition.
Well, the guys that I know that leave them up year-round, like multiple years, a lot of them say that they'll go and, like, at the end of season, they'll pop the straps. So they'll loosen them, and then they'll go back and retighten them. But I guess there's probably some relevance there that just like how a ground blind deer get conditioned to a ground blind being there, maybe deer get normalized to that stand being there. I don't think your plan with any deer stand is like deer see it. I mean, usually we try to keep them in the cover and be pretty minimalist with our shooting lanes. But like I said, we have permanent ground blinds that don't move, and deer get habitualized to seeing them when they come into the fields or the food plots. Maybe that's another counter argument. Like, oh, that stand's been there for 10 years. The deer just know it's there, and maybe they don't pick up when there's a person in it or not. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like, too, as reactive as we are to season, during the season, it's really hard for us to like have those permanent stands because we don't have a stack of combats sitting in the shed like,
right.
Yeah, we need to be over there, grab a fresh set. Like we're constantly plucking and moving and changing.
We've got like 7 really, really good double stands.
And I feel like
3 of them probably stay.
Yes. 3 of them go up in the summer.
But 4 of them are bebopping around. And it's like...
Yep, ping-ponging around the farms.
What's the lowest hanging fruit that we could rip down in the lowest amount of time and put here, given our time constraints?
And, what we've seen or whatnot. I mean, it's been deadly for us, and we're probably never going to stop.
For stand maintenance, I don't think it's arguable that taking them down is the right option. Like, I like that we do that. I like that all of our stuff is in excellent condition, and it will always be because we take it down, and we take the time and effort to take it down. Another thing that's a small thing, we haven't had it happen to a deer stand, only to trail cameras, but theft. I mean, I do hear about people, like, during shed season, it gets pretty rampant in Illinois. Mushroom season, and people just try to, they pretty much ignore fences for the most part, start walking around, and, it wouldn't be super pleasurable to go and try to take one of our double stands out of a tree, but it could be done.
Yeah, they're sitting there saying, oh, there's $500.
Yeah, and so I feel like the theft aspect, it's not one of the things that's like high on my list of reasons why taking it down is a better option, but for longevity and theft, I think taking it down is the way to go. Now for deer, I don't know. It's real arguable that leaving it there gets them conditioned if you want them to just, if it's a stand right out in the middle of the open and it's hanging on a trail edge or somewhere where a deer is seeing it often. It's like that movie Enemy at the Gate. Remember the Enemy at the Gate? He put the little mannequin up top
Yep.
And then
not the mannequin, it was like a dead soldier.
a dead soldier mannequin with the rifle, and every day he would cross through there and get conditioned to the fact that, oh, okay, I can cross through there. And then he did, and then came the fight.
Yes.
Great
movie.
It is a good movie. Hanging a trail camera on the tree your stand is in, like on the physical trunk of the tree.
I feel like we have almost never done this. I know guys that do. I feel like this question takes on a literal whole new meaning when you're on public land, and the caveat and rule of that public land is you can't cut any shooting lanes. Like Cody and Homie. If I couldn't cut a shooting lane, that would change a lot when I was plucking my way through around in the dark of finding a tree, or when I was scouting. If I couldn't cut anything, that would change a lot about the trees that I pick. It would tend to force me to be more towards a hard edge or somewhere where I know my shot wasn't going to be obstructed. Right.
Or it forced me to hunt a lot lower below the canopy.
Yeah.
You know, like that Cody DeQuisto guy does.
Yeah. Byron Horton does too.
Yeah, 8 feet high. You know, you can guarantee that you're going to have to thread the needle through trees, but it's not going to be like through the canopy.
Right.
Which is much more mangled and tangled. So I feel like if you're a public land guy and you cannot cut or remove any ground floor shrubbage, any canopy, I feel like
Flora.
that's a much harder one. And I would be more apt to be like, all right, this is the tree. Here we go. It's going to be a 5-yard shot to this scrape right here that the tree is on.
Yeah.
So I don't know about this.
Where I see the thing being the biggest asset to having the camera on your deer stand tree is that checking it when you hunt. Super convenient.
Mm-hmm.
No more disturbance. You get to your stand quiet, pop the card out, maybe swap it, jump up the tree and check it. Yep. Like I see that being a really nice perk. You know, I'm a huge believer in hanging cameras where you plan to kill. I think that just it really helps you understand the potency of your stand, and also lets you know, to be honest, your missed opportunities. You know, we do this every year where we look through our cameras and be like, fuck. You know, but we're still hunting usually 99% of the time. Like a missed opportunity for us, we were just in the wrong spot. But it does help you like catalog like that deer data, where he was and stuff, for an opportunity. Getting a picture of a deer at night on a field edge, nowhere near you where you can kill him. That's cool. You got inventory, but like, you know, understanding like if I would have been in that stand, he could have died.
Could have, yep, like if everything went right. Yep.
Yeah, like that's what I like. Shots
right, wins right, scenarios right.
So I guess to answer this question is I think it's a good convenience if your shot opportunity is that close to your tree that your stand's in. But I feel like more times than not, we're 18 to 27 yards away from our
camera
kill shot, you know, which is, like you said, where our camera is. And then so when we do check our cameras during season, which intra-season we are more times checking cameras while we're hunting than just going out to check cameras, I do see, like, you know, there's a small disadvantage. We have to go, like you said, lay ground scent a little bit further and then go touch that camera that's probably on that trail or on that scrape to get that data. You know, I don't know.
I think my answer's changed in the last, 5 years. I think if you asked me this question 5 years ago, I would be a hard and fast, it's got to be very close to your tree, because you and me are big believers of, all right, take the backup SD card, let's swap it out, get up the tree, let's check this in our camera, let's wait till we get home. But now with the evolution of mobile cellular trail camera technology, it can be in a little bit more far-fetched of a place where it's maybe not off. I mean, when you have that instantaneous data, if you're a guy who's running 6 to 10 and they're all cellular cameras, I mean, then there's really no reason for it to be near your tree for the purpose and ease of being efficient, because that's what I feel like we were doing. Mm-hmm. That was the purpose behind doing that for us. For years was just, okay, this is quite literally on the way to walk to this stand we're going to, grab a couple SD cards, let's flip them out, see what's on there. But I feel like now with Moultrie, or any mobile camera really, that we don't have that factor to worry about as much, because we're running less traditional cameras in the fleet. You know, of the 20-30 cameras that we run every year, the majority are getting to be, you know, a cellular camera.
Yeah, it's about a 50-50 split, I'd say now.
Yeah. Then in the years to come, it'll probably be even more.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. But I do feel like I'm not one of those people that believe cameras spook deer. I'm not in that camp at all. I do not feel like they spook deer too bad. And my thing is like this. We all got that picture of a deer at night, like head faking a camera. Well, I find that deer in October, like when a deer is patternable, and I'm taking November kind of out of the equation, but in October and the late season when deer are more patternable, I find that the same deer is going to hold its pattern, and it's not going to go one night and head fake a camera and be wigged out and then not come back. Like maybe that's just because of the amount of pressure that we put on our deer is not high at all, and that's by our design and our hunting strategy that we've peeled off more. You know, in the last like 5 or 10 years, we've been hunting less, but we've been much more efficient. Like hours on stand versus bucks harvested. The number of bucks we harvested every year is about the same. We go, like if you, like Vegas odd makers, I think if 2.5, like over or under, it's going to be a good question. We're either going to kill 2 or 3 bucks every year. And we've done that for, I don't know, a decade or so. And yeah, but I'm saying like, I don't feel like a camera is wigging all these deer out, and it could just be because the amount of hunting pressure that we put on. It's not like there's a ridiculous amount of invasion of a deer's privacy that we're doing. We'll have a deer head fake a camera, and they'll come back the next day.
I honestly think the reason, I think at one point in time, cameras did have an opportunity to scare deer, and I think there are areas out there where they still do. You know, public land being one of the bigger options, but I think that a high percentage of deer in the Midwest have grown up with trail cameras in their lives.
Yeah.
They've been conditioned to them. Like every hunter I know, literally, I can't name one that doesn't have a trail camera. And so
that's a great point. I wasn't even considered that.
Trail cameras have been around for 15 years.
Yeah. Well, ever since we started hunting, like those big ass turtle shell mole trees.
Yes. And they've only become more readily available, cheaper, easier to use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm getting at is like, I think that at one point in time during
like
hunting,
when they 2000 just came out, 2005 deer were like, whoa, what the
yeah, you know, but it's like street lights or anything that humans have been conditioned. Cell phones,
right.
You go back 15 years and you're like, dude, what? He's got a phone. Like you noticed it, like they had a phone. Or remember the iPads? Like those were the thing.
Yeah.
You know, like now it's just you're just so glossed over by the phone. Or like
everybody has a phone.
Or here's one that I hate to admit, like freaking pink, green, fucking weird hair. Like, you know, when I was in high school, like that would draw my attention, and I'd be like, "Whoa, that's
different."
And now, like, I still like look at it, and I'm just kind of shake my head, my opinion, right? Whatever. I'm just kind of, but I'm not nearly as like
back on your heels as you once were.
So I feel like deer,
that's
they've grown. They've just grown up ever since they were a fawn. They've seen these cameras around, and like they're moving.
They've been over the water holes they drank at. They've been on the food plot edges. They've been on the trails.
So I don't. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that a deer doesn't know it's there, but it's now just part of kind of like life.
Yeah. And I guess with the evolution of the trigger speed and the quieter trigger speed and the different variations
Invisible
of flash,
yep.
I feel like they're becoming even better. Like we're coming into the golden age of technology, and it's arguably, I mean it's not arguable. It's benefiting hunters. I mean, if we didn't have trail cameras, I feel like our odds go way down. If we don't have better optics, odds go down. Better hunting equipment, odds go down.
Think about the bows we started to hunt with.
Oh yeah, I would not take a 30-yard shot at a deer with that fucking
black
bow.
lightning. Yeah.
Okay, that was a good one. Hanging a trail camera on the tree your stand is in. Any final words on that one? That's a good one too.
Totally situational, I think. Justified in some areas, unjustified not in others.
Scented drag walks to the base of a tree. Kind of similar to that whole raking the leaf path all the way to your stand idea that we talked about a couple points ago, but it's still interesting to think about nonetheless. Scented drag walks the base of your tree. Here's my thing with scented drag walks is what are you putting on it? And I feel like 98% of the synthetic scents that you can place, like if you were the rarity and you have just killed a doe and you cradled the bladder, like we've done this before, and you cut it open and you save the pee, or you cut the hocks off of a buck. We do this from time to time, and you save the hocks and you drag that. I feel like that's more acceptable if you're a deer farmer and you save the pee. Like you have a fresh operation like what Jake used to own. I feel like that's acceptable, but man, if you crack open a bottle of Tinks 69 that's been sitting on the Farm King shelf for the last 4 years, and you're like, I'm going to call a deer in. We have heard of it working. I've heard of some world-class, huge monster deer, like not just like nice deer. We're talking like 200 inchers be killed by, I chucked this on the bottom of my boots and I walked right to my stand and there he was looking at me. I shot him at 4 yards.
And dude, guys like that will fucking buy that shit till the day they die.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And I would too.
I would too.
Like, if you're kidding me, here's my thing. We do such a good job of like maintaining our scent and especially our ground scent. We're very, very conscious of our boots. It's like, it's very conflicting and contradicting to me. It's like, we've done everything we can to make sure they don't smell us walking in, but now we're going to highlight a trail for them to smell us walking in. It just, and also I also don't like the idea of scent drags because the way that I access my stands is not the way that I want my deer to come in from.
That's a great point too.
And dude, we have even gone we've literally I'm talking 2012-ish, me and you both took scent drives. You're like, you walk around this way, we'll walk around this way. We'll meet up and we'll go to the stand. Like, we got our both sides covered. And you know what? We didn't see a fucking deer. Yeah. You want to know why? Because we walked through the fucking bedding areas with a scent drag thinking, this is going to work. It just didn't work. So That's a
great point.
I am totally, not for it. The other reason, too, is you think like the hawks you talked about or fresh deer pee, some of the best stuff that you can use. Even then, when a deer is taking a step, it's not like they're literally peeing a stream or like that buck isn't dragging his hawk. So that realistic scent picture, I don't think is there because I feel like with a hawk, if a deer is brushing his legs when he's walking, you're getting finite molecules of the scent that are just kind of like falling like mushroom spores rather than it like being, like I said, a paint bucket. Just, if I'm a big mature deer that's like king of the fucking woods, I'm going to be like, this is a little bit off.
Yeah, this is much.
I don't know. I think that hanging hawks can work really well. I think that using fresh hawks and scrapes can work fantastic. Same thing with pee, but I think
there's certain synthetic scents that you can get away with, like Gravedigger. Oh my god, that's my favorite product.
But it's not like we're
market
dropping, breadcrumbs to our deer stand with Gravedigger.
A Gravedigger application is much more realistic. It's exactly where it's supposed to be. It smells like it's supposed to smell. It's in the area. It's in the state that it's supposed to be in. But it's like you said, if you drilled a hole in the bottom of a paint bucket and then walk to your stand, like I liked what you brought up like 2 points ago when like if you really map out where's your truck at, like where are you going to start this drag at? All right, so you got to walk it into wherever you want to begin it at, and then you got to soak it. So you're going to be probably putting a lot of scent down where you soak it, and you flop that soaked tampon-esque thing on the ground to drag it, and then you're going to begin your drag, and it's more than less going to be the path of least resistance than you walk down anyway to get to your stand, of which how many mature bucks, if you look at your trail camera data, are cutting that trail. Like you and me specifically go out of our way to dodge areas where we think a buck is going to travel.
Or sleep.
So he doesn't cut our ground scent before we can kill him. Because ground scent, I feel like, is one of the most underrated, deadly scents that a deer can bust you on. So that's a great point about scent drags, and I feel like we're both on the same side of this one. That I feel
and
like
if you
this
do
one
them,
of those
good
things,
for you, man. If you have luck, maybe you got the secret sauce, and shoot us a message and let us learn something.
I'm sure there's incredible stories out there of guys just doing crazy off the wall
I know
stuff.
there are. I have never had a good experience with it. So
I feel like, too, it's one of those things where if you're a guy hunting a small parcel, and by small, I mean,
less than 50.
Less than 50 acres, which is a lot of people. A lot of people hunt
Us.
less than 50 acres. Yeah, like us. And, I mean, there are a lot of ways to kick a big deer off of your ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the application you'd need to make this work and make sense for a big deer would be really aggressive. It would be like buck bed hunting. Like you're going to encircle a buck's bed within, let's say you give yourself a comfortable cushion. Like let's say you are so quiet and you stay 100 yards away from a bedded buck on all sides. And you painted this scent circle around him, connected by a little line, like a balloon on a string. And the line goes past your stand. Well, man, if you go 100 yards in a circle, like a 100-yard radius in a circle of a point, I mean, man, that's pretty close to 30 acres right there.
Well,
if you go 100 yards in a circle, it's a 200-yard diameter.
The other thing that I want to bring up about scent drags is like, okay, let's say you got the secret sauce. This stuff works, right? Killed several deer with it.
Yep.
When a deer, like I envision a deer crossing the drag is like a perpendicular line, right? Because you're not walking down the path that you think the deer is going to walk
down.
around.
He's got a 50-50 odds of
That's
following
my thing.
the correct
Does he go
way.
right or does he go left? Does he go to your truck or does he go to your stand? I don't.
Yeah.
What does he do? Go to your truck and be like, oh nope, she started here, like, and then turn back around and go the other way. I don't know.
Yep.
All I know is that when we've done it before in the past, and maybe we were using the wrong stuff, we've watched deer hit it and be like, huh? Something's wrong there. Goodbye.
Yep.
Like directly where they came from. I don't know. I've got such a bad.
I think it takes the right scent. And
It
I
does.
just feel like
It
most
does.
people don't have it.
We haven't had it. I haven't had it.
Like how do you, like when we were talking about with Jake, like when he used to ship us his fresh stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there'd be like yep, she's on. I'm like, okay. But for the other remainder of the season, like these synthetic, like it's getting to the point where I don't even think we used to try to get away with using it as a cover scent because it was so damn nasty and pungent. And now we're like, nope. I would rather a deer just straight up wind me than smell that because that was scaring deer away from several 100 yards away.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. So
okay, it's time for a segment that we do on every Hunterversial episode, Shoot or Pass.
Pew pew.
It's the part of the show where I ask Garrett a list of 5 to 10 questions, and we'll see if he shoots or if he passes. Question number 1, a 180-pound color phase bear with archery equipment, shoot or pass?
Pass.
Okay, a piebald mid-120s 8-pointer.
Pass.
What the
Here's my confliction.
I'd shoot
with
that son of a bitch and I would full body mount
Would
that.
you? That was good.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Full body mount.
because that's like I love color phase anything.
Mid 120s 8-pointer. That's a big enough deer, especially if it's piebald. That'd be sweet. That'd be a long skin job.
Old Wayne'd have to
Get
his skin blades out.
No kidding.
He does awesome full bodies though.
A doe between November 7th and 14th.
If she's blowing at me, good night, bitch.
A cow elk with your bow. Public land in Colorado. Self-guided.
100%. Elk is so delicious.
A jake on your last day of a guided hunt in Kansas. It's the only bird within killable distance all trip.
I hope I could pass. I'm gonna tell myself. I'm gonna say pass and hope that I pass.
Okay. A couple notes here. Launch party date. We already noted it earlier. August 19th, the Adler Theater in Davenport, Iowa. Free beer, free gear, free films. All you have to do is show up. The doors are going to open at 6:30. The films are going to roll at 7:30.
Also, I do want to note, right now we're actively looking for a couple extra partners of the show. We always reach out and we have some great local people, but if you or a company you work for, or a company you know, thinks that they would be interested to help make this day as special as we can, send us a message to our Facebook or our website or our Instagram. We'd like to have a couple extra partners this year to really make sure that we can take care of the guests and take care of you guys. So, like I said, if you own a company or a part of a company, or you think you know a company that would like to get some local advertising at that show, have them reach out to us. Our packages are pretty economical for especially what you get with the local peers.
Oh, yeah. And also, if you have not yet, check out our Facebook group, The Last Breath Inner Circle, where we share all of our kills as soon as they happen live in the field. They're the first ones to know about everything, including the launch party, all the details surrounding the launch party, and things of that nature. So, thank you again for listening to the Last Breath Huntcast. We will see you next Monday morning when all of our podcasts release. Until then, don't waste it.